Hello, friends. Welcome to the Georgia Tech AI podcast. My guest today is Sehoon Ha, an assistant professor at Georgia Tech who's on a mission to bring personality and grace to the world of robotics. He started his journey captivated by computer games and animation before expanding into robotics and AI. Prior to academia, he spent some time at Disney Research and Google. This gives him a rare perspective on not just how to make robots functional, but genuinely expressive. What sets Sehoon apart is his belief that robots should not just complete tasks, but they should also express emotions and interact meaningfully with the world around them. As he puts it, research is a fun thing. I do research because I like it. I like studying, exploring new topics, communicating with students. That enthusiasm and childlike curiosity is exactly what makes this conversation so compelling. And now, dear friends, please welcome Sehoon Ha. I wanted to start off by asking you a broad question. Animals, humans, we walk so effortlessly. There's almost a grace associated with it. How do we transfer that into robots? What's left in terms of a locomotion perspective?
Definitely, we start to see better and better locomotion on hardware. I believe many people believe the quadrupedal locomotion is solved, and then we are moving on to humanoid bipedal locomotion, I guess. But then still, we are far from the human level grace, I guess. Definitely, we are not robust yet. I feel like if my kid is around the huge humanoid robot, then no matter how robust it is, I don't think I feel very safe about it. Yeah, it can come from many different perspectives. Actually, I had a great conversation with my colleagues. Is it because of the hardware, such as the actuation? Or maybe someone told me that just if we have fast enough, accurate enough actuation, the problem is solved. Just all we need to do is just the step toward where we are falling. So no matter what we do, the locomotion will be solved. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe some other claim that it's about the sensing capability. We see through the proprioception, which is very limited sensing capability. On the other hand, we have very good understanding from the very limited interaction with the environment. So maybe it can be maybe the hardware, either software or the sensing or actuation, or the motion intelligence. I don't know. Maybe we just use for now the majority of the working controller use the reinforcement learning, which rely on the huge amount of the data. But that's a little different from the how human learns. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost humans don't have to think about it. Like you learn to walk. I'm sure being a father has made you see like how your babies learn so
Mm-hmm.
quickly, right? And robots take so much data.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, it's a bit of a philosophical question, but could you help me understand how is it that humans learn so fast, but it takes so much training for a robot to do the same thing?
That's actually sometimes frustrating. What I saw was when my daughter was age of 2, she was able to walk up the stair, which is relatively huge compared to her body size, while holding the cup with her mouth. So which was pretty amazing. On the other hand, the reinforcement learned policies, they are definitely not that robust, I guess. I think that's kind of the curse of the sampling-based approach, which is the deep reinforcement learning. Essentially, what we do is we estimate the policy gradient from the tons of amount of the tons of amount of the data. Then always when we try to work on new terrain, there are some gaps. There can always the unseen environments which give us a poor performance.
Yeah. And I know there's even children, people, all of us can express a degree of personality just by the way we move. Where are we in terms of endowing robots with that ability?
human has amazing ability to express own characteristic or the personality. On the other hand, robots just they are doing just mostly task driven. We are just barely can execute the given task, which is just walk without falling. But I believe there some key is from their learning from human, I guess. So by these days, there we try to leverage more human data so that there we can express more better and better personality. So actually, I'm pretty interested in learning a policy from from human, and then the kind of the characteristic inside of the robot. Yeah, but then the morphologies are different. Human and humanoids are very similar. Human to quadrupedal robot or the legged manipulator is a little more challenging. So I call it cross-morphology imitation. And that's something I'm very interested in these days.
With regards to transferring personality, I'm curious about the character robot.
Mhm.
We spoke about that briefly, but how is it that they were able to transfer a degree of personality into that robot, make it look cute and walk around with its head bobbing? How did that tuning process work?
So I think actually, that has been very important topic in computer graphics. By the way, I have computer graphics background. That's where I started my career. So it's been very important topic. As always, yeah, just like other fields at the early, for the early papers, researchers try to model them as the more like manual feature-based approaches, like they measure the energy or some other feature factors. But then these days, more popular approach would be to model using data. We collect some data with their personality. Actor try to brag about their different things, very confident walking. You can easily tell from their walking or the interacting with people. And then we try to extract the style from that vector and try to transfer it to character. So that kind of modeling is more popular, I guess. Yeah, then we usually combine some we need to model, which means that we want to model what's the common behind those motions. Can be some technique like a GAN or other learning-based approaches, I guess.
Right, right. I'm curious, when we talk about cross morphology transfer, you've had a lot of great research in this where I saw examples of a person moving their hand and the dog would also move their hand. How do you ensure that that correspondence holds? Can that ever be messed with?
That's very good question. That what do you mean by math? We need to define it first, I guess. In simulation, I believe we try to train and train over again. Sometimes we find some kinks, then we train that part. We fine tune the policy to remove that. When it comes to teleoperation setting, it's a little more difficult. We want to know what's the intention, human intention from the dam motion. Still, it's kind of the little unexplored territory, I would say. But I believe that we need to understand what was the original intention of the human and what robot can do and try to project that. There can be even noise in the human intention. We want to project the motion onto what robot can do.
Yeah, when I say mess with, yes, noise is a factor, but it's also
Mhm.
safety. Yeah, the robot could damage itself. It has to know what's a valid motion for its morphology versus
Mhm.
not. How does that selection mechanism happen?
It can be approached by many different things. One possibility is that we try to build some motion scale repertoire of the robot, what robot can do, and we try to stay within that repertoire. We can model the skill space in the latent space, and then we try to project everything onto that latent space, for instance. That's one of the approach, I guess.
Very interesting. I'm curious about your sword fighting example as well. I was at ICRA and I saw the spot robot
Huh?
handling the sword. How did that happen?
That's still same. Still that's kind of the one example I mentioned. We that called I believe you've seen that ACE paper, I guess, the adversarial correspondence learning. We model what robot can do. We build a very compact controller that takes the very small dimensional latent space factor as input and do variety of the motions that kind of formulates the manifold of the what robot can do, and then we've tried to find the correspondence between the what human is doing and that small latent space factor. So when human is acting on it, then we already know the correspondence between human motion and what robot can do. So by following that manifold, which is the manifold of the what robot can do, robot is kind of trying to imitate what that human is trying to do. Following, it can be sword fighting, it can be chair pulling motion.
Very, very cool. And it's interesting to me because I also want to understand, can you reconstruct that dog motion or the animal motion back into human motion? There's the paper that you came up with, Cross-Loco, that does this. Is this a way to verify that the skill transfer happened perfectly if you can reconstruct it back into the original motion?
That's something we found that's very helpful. We don't want to say that that's super necessary because the motion retargeting itself is also, it's a historical topic in computer graphics and robotics. So we don't want to say that that's super, super necessary. But I believe the beauty of the key finding of the cross-local paper is that the correspondence, cycle correspondence is actually very helpful when we do motion retargeting. We want to have some one-on-one correspondence. The human motion must be able to translate into robot's motion, and then robot motion must be able to cycle back to the specific motion. By having this kind of the constraints, we can have better motion correspondence.
Very cool. You know, you're one of the few researchers who has a background in character animation, robotics, reinforcement learning. I want to ask, when you started your PhD, did you have that clarity that you want to focus on these three fields, or has that emerged over time?
It's been emerged over time, I would say. By the way, there are many researchers that has similar background, graphics, robotics, and the reinforcement learning. Probably one of the, I'm not sure that this is suitable for broadcast, but one of the most popular person would be Professor Sergey Lavin at UC Berkeley. He also has similar background. Anyway, I didn't know, honestly. I really like computer game, and that's the reason why I started to study computer animation. But then, during my senior years, like the fourth or the fifth year, I started to be interested in robotics. I thought, okay, I learned something from the computer graphics, physics-based control, and then many of them can be transferable to real robots as well. So I start to expand my career, research interest. And then I think I like that expansion. I think really, seeing what we learn on the real hardware is really amazing experience. So I think I never regret that decision.
Yeah, there's a beautiful creativity aspect to it as well, trying to model what you do in animation simulation and then moving that over. It's truly fascinating. I'm curious for myself and for other researchers right now, how should we think about working in industry versus going to academia? I'm sure you thought about this as well.
That's the kind of the one of the most frequent question people ask me because that I was at Disney Research and Google, and then I moved to Georgia Tech. For me, the kind of I don't know I really like the my time at industry. I learned a lot. The Disney Research is perfect place for animation / robotics researcher. It's perfect learning opportunity. And Google, they are like they have tons of great minds there. I also learn a lot from them. But I would say being in academia is very fun. every day is full of surprise, particularly when I interact with the students. Every time I surprised, mostly in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, honestly. But yeah, students always I really like the highly interaction with the highly motivated students. Sometimes I learn a lot from it. I have almost not 100%, I would say 90% academic freedom, which is much more than industry. So I really like my time at Georgia Tech, I would say.
Yeah, there's the autonomy aspect for sure. And I would definitely attest to that. I really like my time in school as well. We're in a very interesting time in robotics, and there's tons of industry involvement as well. You have a recent collaboration with Neuromeka.
Mhm.
I'm curious about your role in that. Neuromeka will be handling the creation of the medical humanoid robot, but where does Georgia Tech come in?
So we are kind of in charge of the most of the high level stacks, decision layer stacks. Uh, uh, I'm collaborating with Professor Jennifer Kim at the same department, School of Interactive Computing. And then we are in charge of all the way from the human robot interaction, how to interact with human, how they understand the robot understand humans' requests, how to respond, how to provide some emotional support. And then the second layer is like a more high level planning, like a navigation, what to do. And then the bottom, we also have there some mobile manipulation layer. Then we want to do move things and that, provide assistance to the nurses and the patients. So those we are in charge of the high level AI driven research in that area. And other institutions, they have their own role, like a control stacks, hardware developments, the in the wild user study. Yeah, that's like our team.
Very cool. Could you paint a picture of how this would be useful? At least my understanding is nurses tend to spend a lot of time
Uh-huh.
going stacking medicines, and then they don't get enough time with the patient. Could this medical robot help alleviate some of that burden that nurses experience?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we want to minimize we don't want to. Our goal is not replace the nurses or medical workers. We hope that by introducing this kind of the robots, they can do tough things for them, like fetching some medicine from here, something like that, or even for patients. Sometimes I don't know, maybe this is a little bit Korean culture. I'm not sure, but the patients sometimes they hesitant to ask nurses to do something for them because they feel sorry. They don't want to bother busy people. But we hope that this kind of medical assistance robot can be more autonomously help them. So that's something we are looking for.
Yeah, yeah. I keep thinking about if we're talking about a navigation algorithm in a hospital, hospitals can be very crowded and people are always rushing. There's time sensitive
Mhm.
tasks to get to. How can the robot be non-intrusive in such situations?
That requires that's also a very challenging problem in navigation. Probably we want to have the near perfect social navigation. We call that the social navigation when we do navigation with the other entities, social entities more precisely. But then we probably our approach would be more like a AI driven approach. We probably mix use the LLM, like the high level decision and the guidance of the imitation learning and the massive scale reinforcement learning. We believe our goal is that something smarter than what current practice is doing in the wild. For instance, the delivery robots. Sometimes you try to, you see them, they are not very smooth, I'll say. They are definitely very conservative. They are very cautious about everything. But we hope that in this environment, our robot to understand more social situation, some risk. We hope it to understand the risk of certain objects. If there's a huge risk, then something is going on, then we want it to take a detour. Yeah. We want to empower that kind of the experience using by combining all types of the AI-based approach, LLM, imitation learning, and reinforcement learning.
Very interesting. And why is it that, let's take the Starship robot, for example, because I have firsthand experience. I noticed that whenever, it's coming to me, it stops and it blocks the way. It doesn't
Mhm.
try to navigate around me. Why is it that we're not quite there in terms of seamless navigation? What's stopping this?
I don't want to. So I want to be a little cautious here. I don't want to say bad thing about them. Probably that's because they won almost 99.99% of the safety, I believe. So probably that will be the not the most efficient way, but probably the most safe way, I believe. Yeah. So, but I think we can do. Of course, as a the AI driven navigation researcher, I think we can do better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there's that psychology aspect as well. Even when we're driving, what is it called? A defensive aggression, right? You
Mm.
don't want to be too nice, but
That's
yeah.
true. Actually, the one of the my master student is kind of the working on some social aspects of the navigation, and we believe there are different. We can come up with the different strategies, and then actually, without saying it, just that kind of strategy can already navigations can convey message to nearby people. As you said there, if it moves sideways, for instance, kind of the even without saying anything, it kind of the implies, hey, I don't want to make collision with you. I saw you and I try to avoid you so you can go the other way. I hope that we can implement this kind of the mechanism in the medical robot project.
And Professor, I've noticed beyond locomotion, you've also shown a growing interest in human robot interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And very recently, there was the robotic dog that you came up with to help
Mm-hmm.
visually impaired people. I am so curious about how the dog handles the trust dynamics
Mm-hmm.
between the person and the robot. So, if I was in the shoes of a person using a robotic dog, right, and my eyes were totally covered, there would be times when I don't quite trust the robot to navigate around tricky situations. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
hold on tight. Is it possible to model that initial apprehension? And, once I get comfortable with it, is it possible for the dog to sense that over time?
Sensing trustness is very tricky question, but I think your understanding is correct. Different people, different users react very differently. Actually, we did a user study last year. It was published, I think it was last year, Human Robot Interaction, HRI conference. And then we studied a lot about the communication between the robot guide dog and the BVI population, potential users. So they have definitely the communication can come from different sources. It can be verbal, it can be haptic, it can be by pulling, and there's some communication from human or from the robot. And then everyone reacts very differently to those communication experience. But I think the overall, I feel good about it because the we just the project of the project is not just replicating the real animal dog on robotic system. We want next level of the intelligence. Definitely, it can understand by connecting it to the proper AI system. They can understand the situation better, communicate the current situation with users. You can imagine that those robotic guide systems can talk to people, explain their decision about, hey, I make the tour because of this kind of the reason. And then I believe those robotic guide dog systems can start to build the trust with users. So I'm hopeful about that.
How do you go about picking projects? There's so much to choose from. Is there some thought that goes into, okay, what's my next project going to be, or is it based on what my students
Hmm.
bring me?
I'm also curious about how other professors are doing, but mostly I try to set some agenda over a little longer years. This year, probably one of the the focus will be definitely humanoid. And we want to integrate what we learned from the past years, navigation, motion control, the how to imitate human and human robot interaction. We want to integrate everything onto them. But also but I think I'm usually open to student idea as well. Some of the students have their own research idea. I'm happy to listen to them. Of course, they need to fight with me. They need to convince me that it's an interesting idea. But I believe some projects, they are initiated by students. And then if they have their clear understanding of what they want to do and that they have high motivation, then I'm also good with it. But probably, yeah, as I said at the first time, I also want to know how other professors are doing.
I will find out. I'll let you know. I'm.
Please, yeah.
Could you tell me about your relationship with your students? When, you have graduate students applying to your lab, I'm sure there's so
Mhm.
many people interested in the work that you do. How do you pick promising students? What are some factors that you look for?
That is tough question also. Once again, I want to know how other professors are picking their students. But for me, probably good indicator is that the research experience in some research topics I've been interested in. For instance, publication in the field, the venues I used to publish, like ICRA or the RAL, SIGGRAPH, that kind of graphics conferences. I would love that kind of the experience. Also, the skill set wise as well. I we have some common techniques needed in our lab. For instance, some motion imitation learning, the scalable reinforcement learning, that kind of things. It's better if that they understand some traditional theory about the leg locomotion. So if they have good understanding, then that's also plus, I guess. But actually, if I recall, there are also some cases I actually recruit students from my class as well. I can easily see the personality and what kind of the knowledge student have. Most of times, particularly the masters or the undergrads, if they want to join our lab, my probably first suggestion would be to take my class first so that we can get to know each other. That does not mean that you have to, uh, excel at my class or do you have to wait until the end of the semester. I just want to know people more. Then I'll be much more comfortable with that, I guess.
It's very correctly pointed out that yes, you have to look for research experience that you can actually do the work. I'm curious about the personality gauge
Mhm.
that you do. Like, how do you test for personality and if they have the correct behavioral characteristics to succeed in your lab?
I think that's also a tough question, but I like active person asking a lot of questions during the class, for instance. Also from the quality of the questions, I can tell that how much each individual student understand the lecture material. That matters. Other than that, I think if the other things are about the same, I think I like more bright personality, like energetic, positive about many things. Yeah, so I slightly have preference on that kind of personality, but it does not, I don't think it's super necessary, I guess.
Yeah. It's always nice to interact with happy people, which you are.
I hope so, yeah.
I want to take a quick tangent and ask you about humanoid robots since
Hmm.
there's going to be more focus on in that area. So, firstly, I'm sure you're aware now Unitree released their humanoid robot. That's around
Yeah,
6,000.
new version of the humanoid robot.
One thing that I read about recently is students at KAIST, they developed this quadruped robot that could run 100 meters in, I'd say, around 10 seconds. Uh,
But probably that's one of my collaborator.
yeah, yeah. Can we get humanoids to run that fast?
That's tough question. I think yes, I think. But then we need to define what is humanoid.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, what is, for instance, are you familiar with the concept of the lagged wheel? Like that they are wheel, but they, there's a lag. And then if you use lagged wheel, I believe that they can be easily faster than kind of faster than human. But then can we call it humanoid? But then starting from there, probable answer would be no from there. Then there's always in the middle. For instance, we can design very specific robot with something like that kind of the springy prosthetic, for instance. Then maybe it can run faster than human. I know one of my colleagues is working on super agile humanoid robot. Fingers crossed for him. So yes, I think one day they can run faster than human. I think so. Yeah.
I ask because with Cassie, for example, Agility
Uh-huh.
Robotics, they developed the robot. It could run in 25 seconds, the 100
Uh-huh.
meters, and it will like change lanes quite often. But now I'm curious about your thoughts about how can we replicate how humans run and transfer that into a bipedal humanoid? What are the exact characteristics that we'd have to transfer from the human?
Let me think. Once again we have probably two different perspective from hardware approach. I believe that we need more energy efficient mechanism, like the saving energy and saving energy from the foot contact and the burst it within a very, a smaller amount of the time. We need that kind of the mechanism, or just more and more power, I guess. Uh, Software wise, we also want to minimize the energy efficiency, maximize the energy efficiency, and minimize unnecessary energy dissipation. We don't want to stomp the ground. We want to smoothly maintain our center of mass within the very short window of height, so that we can move very smoothly. But I think the control wise, for me, if it's about just the running in the very, very perfect condition. I think bigger bottleneck is at hardware. That's my current instinct, I would say. They're just maximizing, training, developing the very overfitted controller for single task. I think we can do that. So it can be reinforcement learning, it can be imitation learning, maybe both of them. I think once we have very capable hardware, then developing controller is, I don't want to say it's super easy, but doable. But on the other hand, I think hardware is not there yet.
Well, it's also reliability. Like, of course, single task, let's say it's just a typical 100-meter track, but in uneven terrain or any unexpected circumstances emerge, the robot would totally break. Because if
Mhm.
it's running that fast,
Yeah, reliability is also important. Yeah, we don't want to break our robots. It does not only cost some money, it also costs the time of the us engineers, as well as that it can damage surroundings and surrounding people. So yeah, safety is really important.
so what can be done to avoid this? How can we develop more fault-tolerant robots that don't fall and break themselves so easily?
I think we need some mechanism of the understanding what it can do. It's just like the safety aware order. It must know the what it can do, and if something is going on, then you should do something else rather than focusing on the current task. If some you start to feel stress on your knees, then probably you need to do something else. If some object you are lifting now is too heavy, you should know is out of your capability. So I think we need that kind of the safety awareness.
Awesome. What is next for you in terms of humanoid work? Are there any particular research directions that you're interested in right now?
Always I'm interested in the expressiveness, I would say. It's actually connected to your kind of the early question, like how we can empower robots with characteristics. That's something I'm very interested in. What can we learn from the human? Then human is amazing. We are amazing, definitely. We are not just good at, the useful things, just, the carrying the box from A to B, but we can express our emotion. We can interact with the surroundings. So I hope that I can develop that kind of the expressive controller on humanoid robot. That's one of my research interests.
That is so cool. And I'm curious about how we incorporate expressive motion in your Neuromeka project in a hospital.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What do you think? What's your hunch of the kinds of, personalities that you want your robots to have in the hospital?
I think it's kind of the combination of the everything I mentioned, the cross-morphology imitation. Although it does not have leg, I believe many things can learn from the human motions. Social navigation, HRI study will be also useful. How to communicate with end users. We studied those topics over the past years. I feel like I just want to see what will happen if we combine all the things we learned before.
For sure. Could you, for the listeners, in terms of robot locomotion, what do you feel would be the key milestones for the research community in these next 5 years?
That's also an interesting question. I'm not very good at predicting future, but in terms of the research milestone, probably people would repeat what we did for quadrupedal robot, which means that people would work on parkour thing, like how to avoid the obstacles, showing highly agile motions. But then it is really different from the the usefulness. It's a little different. But I think that can be one milestone if the humanoid robot can go jump over obstacle. It can run through some very challenging terrain. I believe there will be big milestone there.
You've worked in academia industry. We've already talked about this, but a side effect of this is you've interacted with a whole variety of people and researchers. Who are the people who stand out to you? Do you have a favorite researcher?
Wow.
You can give me more than one name. That's totally fine. No pressure.
I feel like, yeah, I have too many, but probably I would go with maybe that's too obvious, but I would like to start with my advisor, Dr. Karen Liu, who's currently at Stanford. Of course, I learned many things from her, like how to do research, really literally A to Z and many things. But I think I learned the most important lesson that research is the fun thing. That's kind of that's the reason why I'm still in academia. I know that she was always excited about our research meeting, and always she it's I don't know that maybe I misread. I don't know that she's always excited about the new research ideas, very passionate about things, and then I naturally learned that kind of the attitude from her. And for me, I'm doing research because I like it. I like studying new topics, exploring new topics, communicating with students. So that's kind of the most valuable lesson I learned. So I would say that I'm really highly inspired by my own academic advisor.
Yeah, I see this very clearly in your own personality. You have a childlike instinct. You're genuinely happy to do the things that you do. And related to that, I wanted to ask you for up and coming researchers, students, what would be some advice that you would give them as they pursue their research career?
That's also a tough question, but I would say that uh, one thing I didn't do very good was the catching up with the state of the arts. I believe I don't know, the research landscape has been changed. When I was when I was PhD students, I only need to read to catch up with the state of art in computer animation. I only need to read what the 30-ish papers, which covers the that specific years, the computer graphics animation papers in all top conferences and journals. And then that was it. I was able to catching up with him. But then these days, it's not really. There are tons of things going on in the wild. There are many interesting work out there. Then I see some of my students are naturally catching up with them, maybe via Twitter, by looking at YouTube, just talking to people, searching papers. I think knowing what's going on is very important. And then it might be not relevant to your current research at this moment. But I think by learning, understanding what's going on in the community will be very, very helpful, and it will help you grow bigger, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Just be a relentless,
Mm,
lifelong learner.
mm,
Well, thank you so much, Professor, for your time. I want to let you know that the work you're doing,
mm.
it's gonna have such a huge impact, and I'm so glad that you're here with us on campus and mentoring all the students.
Glad to hear that. But I really want to thank every researchers I've collaborated with, and also all the students I've interacted with. You like your like that. You really actively participate in our deep reinforcement learning class, and then it made me so happy. So I would like to thank everyone, I guess.